Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wa mursaleen. Sayyidina wa habibina al-Mustafa. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. I'd like to welcome you all to week 7 of the book that we're covering, which is called Aqidatul Awwam, or it's translated as the creed of the masses, or the belief of the lay people, or the creed of the laity. So Aqidah comes from a word Aqada, which means to tie rope together or tie something together. And Awam means like the general folk. And so this book is what the general people need to know with respect to belief, inshallah ta'ala. And so the book is authored by Imam Ahmed al-Marzuki, who was born in Egypt and ended up being a teacher in Medina. And the book consists of 57 lines of poetry and 12 chapters. And inshallah, we've covered so far 14 or 15 lines. Sister Zachariah, what is it? Line 14 we left off? Yeah, I believe it's line 14. Does everybody have a copy of the book? We have a couple of new students. Does everyone have a copy of the book?
No, I'm gonna have a copy.
Okay, mashallah. If not, then I'll email you all a copy.
I don't have it.
Huh?
I don't have it.
All right. If you could put your email in the chat, and inshallah, I'll email you a copy. Are you familiar with Google Meet? Okay. Are you familiar with Google Meet, sis? At all?
No.
Okay, cool. All right. So now, as we mentioned, we're a little ways in week 7, and last week we discussed the 50 necessary attributes for Allah and His prophets. So we've been covering them in detail, and this week for our new students, we're going to review them a little bit, and then so this week we're reviewing them. The next week we're going to have a test. We're going to review a test that we're going to have. Then the week after that, we're going to do an actual test. It's going to be online. You're welcome to take the test. I mean, it will be no judgment if you don't, if you're just taking it and you're just getting in. That you can, we also have all of these videos uploaded that you can review, and most of the stuff is in the book. But the last couple of weeks, we've been working on the necessary attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also what's necessary for His prophets. And so this week, this class it may be relatively short because we're going to cover those attributes again. All right, and so now our senior students, Sister Zachariah, Sister Venus they're probably going to be answering a lot of questions today. I don't think they knew that. They probably wasn't expecting that, but it is what it is.
Why you got to put me on blast?
Hey, you come every day. I mean, you come every week. You might, you ain't coming for nothing. Okay, so we talked about Allah's attributes. And when we say Allah has attributes, first of all, we talked about 3 categories: that what is necessary for Allah, what is wajib, what is mustahil, what is impossible for Allah, and what is jaiz, what is possible for Allah. And so when we say what is necessary, wajib for Allah, what do we mean when we say necessary with respect to these attributes?
Wajib, the correct belief and what we believe, the correct belief in regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is it? Al-Ihayat? That
No, well, what do we mean when we say these attributes are necessary for Allah? How can we say that something? How do we know what's necessary for Allah?
because the
In
intellect
other
cannot,
words, these attributes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
the intellect cannot comprehend the With regards to the necessary attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the absence of them is inconceivable and the opposite is impossible.
Okay, so when we say necessary, we mean that these attributes that we lay out, that these attributes are what make Allah who He is, why Allah is to be worshipped, why He is, to be believed in, because He possesses these attributes in an absolute sense, and it is inconceivable for the intellect to think of the opposite, right? And so there's a line that we says that the absence of these necessary attributes are inconceivable, meaning that we could not worship Allah if He didn't have these attributes, because He has to have these attributes to be who He is. And the opposite of them are impossible, because Allah would not be Allah if these attributes apply to Him. And so what are these attributes that we talked about? How many are there?
Well, last week you sprung on us that it was going to be 50 of them when we only thought there were 27 of them are classifications, and then the other 13 are the necessary.
Okay,
But
well,
then you
yeah,
added 2 more.
there are 20 necessary attributes for Allah, and 20 impossible attributes for Allah, meaning the opposite of those necessary ones. Then we have 4 necessary attributes for the prophets and 4 impossible attributes for the prophets. So that's 48, and then there are 2 more that we'll cover, inshallah. All right, so with respect to Allah, when we say these necessary attributes, take a stab at them to run them off.
Okay. You said the necessary ones, the wajib.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Al wujud, al kidam, al baqa.
Can you assume that our new students don't know these words in Arabic?
Okay. Al wujud, existing. Al kidam, eternity.
Or pre-eternal, or existing without a beginning?
Yes.
Mm.
Al baqa, everlasting. Al mutsakalam lil hawadif, non-resemblance to his creation.
Al-mukhalafa lil hawadith.
Al mukhalafa lil hawadif,
Mm-hmm.
non-resemblance to his creation.
Mm-hmm.
Al al qiyam be nafs,
Mm-hmm.
self-subsisting, not in need of anything. Al wahdaniya, unity meaning one. Al hayy, living, life without cause or means. Al Qudra, power. Al Irada, will. Al Im, knowledge. Asamu, hearing.
As-sam'u. Uh-huh.
Asamu,
Mm-hmm.
with the ayin on the u.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Asamu.
As-sam'u. Uh-huh.
Asamu. Okay. Hearing. Abasarun, or Abasa.
Al-basar.
Abasar, sight. Al Kalam, eternal speech.
Al-kalam.
Al Kalam,
Kalam.
Kalam,
Uh-huh.
speech. His speech is eternal,
Mm-hmm.
without letters or sounds. Al Qadir, all powerful. Al Murid, all willing. Al Alim, all knowing.
Alimun. Alimun.
Alimun,
Mm-hmm.
Alimun, all knowing. Asami,
Sami'un.
Samiun,
You forgot one.
and Al Basirun. Did I forget one?
You said Qadirun, Muridun, Alimun.
Qadir, Murid, Alimun, Asamu, Abasarun. Mutakalim.
Oh, you didn't say that one, but before that one, you forgot one. Qadirun, Muridun, Alimun.
I don't know.
Hayyun.
I was used. Oh yeah, Hayun, the all living.
Yes.
I was trying to figure out which one I said because those are the seven. The
Yeah.
last one I said are
Yeah.
the seven
Yeah.
classifications.
Yeah. Qadirun, Muridun, Alimun, Hayyun, Sami'un, Basirun, and Mutakallimun. All right.
Mutakalim.
All right. So those are the 20 necessary attributes, and we categorize them. I don't want to go over it today because we went over it already, but those are the 20 necessary attributes for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we also said that that some of the detractors from this they say that we only believe in 20 attributes for Allah, and that's not true. We believe in all of the attributes and names, which are more than 99, right? And Allah's attributes and names are like He is, that they don't have any end, but we describe Him in attributes that are befitting Him, and so they've just classified as necessary attributes. Allah, He has to have these qualities and characteristics for Him to be who He is. Then you have other ones that define Him, give Him quantitative, and then the other ones are qualitative. So we sifat salbiya. I said I wasn't going to go over it. We're going to go over it real quick. So sifat safiya are the self-negating attributes, or the attributes that negate imperfection for Allah. And then we have the sifat al-ma'ani, the quantitative attributes that give Allah meaning. And then we have sifat al-ma'nawiyya, or the qualitative, that the attributes that affirm the sifat al-ma'ani, they affirm perfection for Allah. And the sifat al-ma'nawiyya, they are the attributes that give to Allah's His being, that if He has those other attributes, then He have to actively be doing those attributes. All right. And so, as we mentioned, that some of this stuff, when we read Ashari Aqidah, is a bulk of it is in response to some of the deviant groups that arose during their time. And some of them, like the Mu'tazila, the main ones, the Jabariya, they would have beliefs such as, things like that Allah was compelled to do something. If Allah wrote everything and if Allah decrees everything, then the servant is compelled. And so Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah don't believe that Allah, of course, creates all actions, but the actions that He creates, but the actions that we do are what's called kasab. Kasab means to earn the action. Allah creates the actions, as the Quran says that Allah creates us and our actions, but the actions that we do are earned by our free will.
Spell that for me.
Kasab, Kasb. KSB, right?
To earn your actions.
Yeah,
right?
That's what it means to earn. Or you could say iktisab, the act of earning actions, earning your deeds. All right, so these 20 necessary 20 attributes are necessary for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then they categorize. Now, what are their opposites?
Okay, I'm almost there. I ain't quite there yet.
Okay, I'm just doing a little review. We're gonna go over before we conclude the class.
Okay. I remember Adam is the opposite of al-wujud, which means
Adam.
non-existent.
Yeah, it's with an I.
Adam. Adam. Which means al-wujud is non-existence. Then al-huduth.
Al-huduth.
Al-huduth. The opposite of al-kidam. Al-kidam is eternity. So that means like non-internal, like basically like created or something like that.
Yeah, originated.
Originate. Okay.
The word huduth means to something that occurs, or an event, or something that comes into existence. So it is impossible for Allah to have huduth, or to be originated, because He has pre-eternal existence.
Yes. The next one, al-Baqa is everlasting. So it's fana, is how you say it? Fana with the I.
Al-Fana. Al-Fana.
Fana, everlasting. So the opposite of that would be what did you say? Annihilation or something like that. I remember.
Annihilation.
I remember
Or termination or something ceasing to exist.
okay. I'm trying to do it off my head. So
No,
I
that's
got all
good.
your Jehiz, I remember it's the opposite of Al M. So Al M is knowledge.
Oh
So
no,
Jehiz is ignorant.
go on. Wait, go on.
This is what I remember.
Okay, go ahead.
Um, what is it? Istiaj. Um,
Ihtiyaj.
Ihtiyaj is the opposite of Qiyam bi nafs, which means self-subsisting. So that means
Self-subsisting.
opposite is,
What's another translation for self-subsisting? Al-Qiyam bi nafs.
yeah, Qiyam bi nafs,
Yeah, we say
self-subsisting. So the opposite,
self-subsisting. But what's another meaning that we give to that?
not in need.
Not in need of anything. Independent. Okay, good.
So the opposite, which is ihtiyaj, is dependence,
Mm-hmm. Or in need of something.
or in need of something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to mess this one up. I know it. What is it? Mu halafa litu hawadith is non-resemblance. So it's
Al-Mukhalafa lil hawadith.
muhalafa lil hawadith.
Uh-huh.
So the other one, it starts with an M. It's like mumatha
Mumathala.
mumathala, which
Uh-huh.
is resemblance.
Resemblance or similarity.
And that's what I remember by heart so far. That's it.
Okay.
I can read the rest off the paper.
No, not today. Okay, mashallah. Anybody else want to try it? Take a stab at it? If not, then we'll just share the what we have, inshallah. All right, so we're just reviewing this because this is going to be the bulk of the test. And then next week we'll go with a few other things. And then the week after that, we'll take the test, inshallah ta'ala. All right. So let me present. You had a question, Ak?
Yeah, I see where you're getting the possible attributes from the poem, but the impossible. Where you getting this list from?
This is just what the Ashuri scholars have come up with, the opposites of them.
Okay.
So this is kind of like a guideline. All right. It's kind of a guideline.
Now,
Right,
are you testing on these particular attributes? Are you testing on this possible and impossible?
Yes.
Okay.
So for you and Sister Michelle, I'm sorry, what's your attribute again, sis? Sister Michelle, you there?
Zafira.
Zafira, okay. So for you and Abdul Rahim, you can just try it the best as you can, but I won't really hold you to it because we already, this is our 7th week. But I'm going to review some of the stuff now, inshallah. Okay.
I got a question, Imam.
Go ahead.
So last week you told us you was gonna give us the other two.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I got the one, the af'al, right? The possibility of doing or leaving something not compelled. But you
yeah.
ain't
Hold
give me
on.
the one for the prophets.
Yeah, hold tight.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Can you all see that? Let me see. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right. All right. So we're going to go over these real quick. Okay. So here we have. Let me see. Can you all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the attributes reviewed. So with respect to Allah, He has these necessary attributes. So He has al-wujud, which is existence, al-qidam, So first, let's do this classification. Al-wujud, existence. That's the attributes that is by itself. What is the name of that when we say that this attribute is by itself?
It's the nature of oneness. It's classified under the sifat al-nafsiyah.
Yeah, it's called sifat al-nafsiyah. So the core, the self-signifying attribute, the core attribute. So this is the attribute that all the other ones come, because without Allah existing, then he won't have any of these other attributes. So this is his first necessary attribute. And as we mentioned before, that even before we believe that Allah is all powerful, all knowing, or even that he's one, it's necessary for him that he has to exist. All right. And so the second one is al-qidam, or pre-eternal, or having existing without a beginning. So they're not the preceded Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he exists, and he also exists without a beginning. So al-qidam, and remember we said that this word means like ancient. It comes from the word qadim, means ancient, but ancient doesn't really get it, because ancient means like something that is old, like occurring to time. So that doesn't apply to Allah. So qidam means that he has pre-eternal existence. He has pre-eternal existence, or existing without a beginning. And al-baqa is everlasting, enduring without an end. Everlasting, enduring without an end. He is al-mukhalafa lil-hawadith. He is dissimilar to creation. He is opposite to any. Also, al-mukhalafa lil-hawadith, a literal translation means that he is opposite from anything that comes into existence. So anything that comes into existence is a created thing because it has a beginning, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unlike that. Al-qiyam bi nafs is self-subsistence, or Allah being free from any need, and independent. He's attributed with al-wahdaniyah, or complete oneness, absolute oneness. He is attributed with qudra, power. He is attributed with al-irada, divine will. He is attributed with al-ilm, knowledge. He is attributed with al-haya, life. He is attributed with as-sam'u, hearing, al-basar, sight, and al-kalam, speech. Now for the test, now for the most part, I want you to know these 13 ones, because the other ones are the sifat al-ma'nawiyah. All right, so they are the qualifying attributes for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when it comes down to it, these ones you should be able to know without even second guessing, that you be able to run off these attributes. Like if I run into you in the street, be like, assalamu alaikum, what are those necessary attributes for Allah? And so you should be able to say them, with ease. All right. Can I go to the next slide?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next slide, we continue. So now we have these 7 attributes that are the sifat al-ma'nawiyah. Sifat al-ma'nawiyah, or the qualitative attributes that Allah's, we say that is Allah's states of being. So meaning that if Allah is attributed, on the last slide, if he's attributed with qudra, with power, then he has to be qadirun, all powerful. Because there were some groups in the past that believed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just put everything in existence, and that he's no longer a part of what's going on in creation. Like he just created everything and just left it as it is. So no, Allah's qudra, mean he is qadirun, his ongoing power is continuous. It is continuous. That if Allah, he's attributed with al-irada, with will, then he has to be muridun, he's willing, that it is current. That if Allah is alimun, all-knowing, if he's attributed with ilm, that means he is all-knowing, alimun. And if he has life, if he's attributed with al-haya, life, that means he is living, hayyun. All right, because that some deviant sects, and even like we know from Christians, they say that they believe Isa alayhi salam was God and 1 and 3, and that he died on the cross. So this is why he can't be God, because God has an attribute of living, right? That he is all living, and the opposite, which is maut, is impossible for him. All right. Sami'un, he is all hearing. Basirun, all seeing, and he is mutakallimun. So if he is attributed with sam'u and basar and kalam, then that means he has to be all hearing and all seeing, and he has to be speaking. All right. Any questions on that?
Do I remember you said the shows when you put the on there, it's
Yeah, in
showing
Arabic,
like
these words are indefinite.
right. I believe
You
like
know,
it's
they're
going to say like
indefinite.
it's facts or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
indefinite. Okay. All right. Any questions on that? If you have a question, you can just unmute your mic. All right. Can I go to the next slide?
No.
Yes.
All right. All right. So then we have those attributes, and then we have the opposites. So the opposite of al-wujud is Adam, that Allah has attributed with existence, and then the opposite of it is non-existence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is attributed with al-qidam, which means that he is pre-eternal or existing without a beginning. The opposite of it is huduf or al-huduf, or something that is originated. Sometimes you see this word contingency, translated as contingency, but huduf, what word do you hear in there? Huduf. It sounds like a word that you're familiar with. We discussed this briefly in one of the classes, but just to jog your memory a little bit. Abdul Rahim, I'm calling you out on this one, brother.
Sound like I'm saying, what were you asking me?
What word do you hear in this word huduf?
Hudud?
Huduf.
Hudud? I see
Yeah.
hudud, I see hadith, I see hadath. I
Yeah,
see a couple words.
yeah. So hadith, we know that we Quran and hadith. So the Quran or the hadith is usually translated as a narration, but it also has a meaning of an event, something that occurred. And so the hadith are the narrations or the writing down of things that occurred. So a hadith is something that occurred. So huduf here means something that originated, meaning that it had a beginning. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is impossible for him. So remember, we said the opposites of those necessary attributes, they are impossible. The absence of them are inconceivable, and the opposite of them are impossible. So it is inconceivable that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not attributed with al-wujud, and it is impossible that Adam that applies to him. All right. The same thing
Question: what is the root word for hudus?
is ha, dal, and tha.
And that means what?
It means to originate something, to invent something, to something for something to occur. It has a number of meanings.
Okay.
All right. All right. So the third attribute is fanat, or annihilation, or termination. And so this is the opposite of baqa. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his necessary attribute is al-baqa, that he has everlasting, or he's enduring, or without an ending. And so that is a necessary attribute for Allah. The absence of it, we can't conceive that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not attributed with al-baqa. And the opposite of it, al-fana, is impossible. It is impossible for Allah to be annihilated, or to be terminated, or to expire, or come to an end. So it's impossible for Allah to be attributed with fana, to come to an end. All right. The opposite, now, on the slides last week, I put these alongside each other, but this is just a review. All right. And so, mukhalafa lil hawadith. or Allah being dissimilar to his creation, the absence of that attribute is inconceivable for the human mind. We can't think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have this attribute of being dissimilar to his creation in any respect. You know, the absence of that we don't accept. And then the opposite of it, mumathala, having resemblance or an example. So mumathala comes from the word mithal, you know, or which means an example, meaning example, right? So there's no example or resemblance for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the opposite of that necessary attribute, it is impossible for anything to resemble Allah in any respect. All right. The next one, ihtiyaj or dependence, is the opposite of al-qiyam bi nafs. Al-qiyam bi nafs means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free of need. He is independent. He is self-subsisting. That's an attribute that Allah could not be Allah except that he has the necessary attribute of al-qiyam bi nafs. And the opposite of it is impossible. It is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be dependent or needed or assisted by anything. He's totally independent. The next one is ta'addud, which is multiplicity. And so this is the opposite of al-wahdaniyah or oneness. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the necessary attribute of wahdaniyah, meaning that the mind cannot conceive that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being that he doesn't have wahdaniyah, and the opposite of it is ta'addud or multiplicity or more than one God, that something alongside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is impossible, right?
Is it a ta or a ta?
It's a ta'addud.
Okay.
Okay, I can give you these Arabic words offline. I didn't want to trouble anybody because I'm not sure who all here knows how to read Arabic.
MashaAllah. I do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you
I can
because
read it.
yeah, I have a hard time reading the transliterations. You know, I prefer the Arabic.
Yeah, me too, man. I'll send it to you in the but I don't want the habit someone can't make out Arabic letters. So inshallah, I'll send you the actual words.
Okay, inshallah.
All right. But just for even at that, you can hear it in the ta'addud. You hear the ayn, ta'addud, and the two D's. We probably need a class of how these abbreviations are, because all of these things mean something. How you do it. All right. All right. The next one is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His necessary attribute is al-qudra, meaning that Allah has attributed with power. It is inconceivable that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could be Allah except that he has complete power, which is al-qudra. And the opposite of it is impossible that Allah is attributed with al-ajz, that he is powerless or incapable. You know, al-ajz means also one who was incapable, has incapability. So this is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, the next one is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is attributed with the necessary attribute of al-irada, and the opposite of it is karaha, compulsion. Karaha comes from the word kariha, which means to detest something. All right, to you hear it in the ayat that the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he will make the deen uppermost, walau kariha al mushrikun, even though the mushrikeen, they will hate it. Right? Or compulsion. So it means another meaning like something that someone hates to do, but they have to do it. Karaha.
Can you spell the word it came from?
I'll do that and I'll give it to you offline.
Okay.
So I want to get through this list, inshallah. All right, so the next one is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is attributed with al-ilm, which is complete knowledge and perfect knowledge, and the opposite is jahl, which is impossible for him to have ignorance or to not know something. All right. You know, ignorance means in our language means like being dumb, but it means here jahl means to be unaware of something or to not know something. All right. The next one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is attributed with al-haya, which is life, and that the opposite maut is impossible for him. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is the living and he does not die. All right. The next one is samam. Samam is deafness. It is the opposite of asamu, hearing. That Allah has a necessary attribute of asamu, hearing, and deafness. The opposite does not apply to him. It is impossible for Allah to be attributed with that. On the same way with ama, blindness, being blind, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a necessary attribute of al-basar, and then he has bakam, muteness, which is the opposite of al-kalam. Okay, any questions on that? Can I go to the next slide?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we have these other attributes, that the attributes are the qualitative attributes, as we mentioned. So that those last seven, that Allah is Qadirun, Muridun, Alimun, Hayyun, Sami'un, Basirun, and Mutakallimun. So those are part of Allah's necessary attributes, that Allah is all powerful, that he is willing, that he is all knowledgeable, all knowing, and that he is living, that he is all hearing, he is all seeing, and he is speaking. All right. And so those attributes that we said that they describe Allah's states of being. So they are from the Sifat al-Ma'nawiyah, or the qualitative attributes. Go ahead, somebody said something.
Oh, I sneeze. I said, Alhamdulillah. Okay.
And so now these are the opposites of those qualitative attributes. And so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is Qadirun. He is all powerful. And the opposite of that is ajiz, incapable. Allah, it is impossible for Allah to be incapable of doing anything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the necessary attribute of murid. He is muridun. He is willing, that he is able to do something, right? And the opposite of it is karih. Karih, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is impossible for him to be compelling or to be compelled, meaning that no one can, Allah does what he wills, right? That no one can compel Allah or make something necessary on Allah to do. He does whatever he wills, right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the attribute of alim, that he is all-knowing. And so the opposite of being jahil, being one who is ignorant, it is impossible for him. Allah has the active attribute of hayyun, living, and the opposite of it is this active attribute of mayyit, dying. All right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the attribute of sami'un, hearing, actively hearing, all hearing. And asam mean being deaf or deafness, does not apply to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the attribute of a'ama, blindness or blind, which is the opposite of basirun, all seeing. And then the attribute of abkam, or muteness, or being mute, it is the opposite of mutakallimun, that Allah is actively speaking. All right, and so that makes up 40 attributes, meaning the necessary ones and then their opposites. All right. Any questions on that? Okay, now before I go to the next slide, so all of this is under what category? Remember we said that there are 3 categories when we talk about Aqidah. They're going to be this category, then this category, then this category.
The impossible are under the mushta'il.
No, not that, not that. No, that's another 3 categories. When we talk about belief, it's going to be Allah, His messengers, and then reports. I'm giving you a hint.
Al-ilhiyat.
Yeah, so al-ilahiyat. Al-ilahiyat means
Al-ilahiyat.
ilahiyat.
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 Yeah, so this means that, or it's translated as godhood, or everything that's related to with respect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this section that we just covered, this is everything that the layman needs to know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, it goes, it's deeper levels to it, but just on the surface, he needs to know, or she needs to know, the necessary, the possible, and impossible. What makes Allah? Well, you said something.
I was gonna say, isn't it? Is it the nasiya? I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
Say it again.
Is it nasiya or
Nafsiya, sifat al
yes,
nafsiya.
nafsiya, yes.
Okay, all right. So yes, under this ilahiyat, under that umbrella, then you have what is wajib, what is necessary, what is mustahil, what is impossible, and what is jaiz, what's possible. So under the necessary attributes, we have 13 attributes, and then we have 7 more, right? Out of those 13, we have the first 5, al-wujud, al-kidam, al-baqa, al-mukhalafa lil-hawadith, and al-qiyam bi-nafs. These the first, al-wujud, the first one is sifat al-nafsiyah. So that's in the category by itself. Then the next 5, right? Al-kidam, al-baqa, al-mukhalafa lil-hawadith, al-qiyam bi-nafs, and al-wahdaniyah. These are known as sifat al-salbiyah. Sifat al-salbiyah are those self-negating attributes, or those attributes that negate imperfections for Allah, right? You follow me so far?
Yes.
Okay, then the next category is the sifat al-ma'ani. So those attributes that cover the quantitative attributes of Allah. So they are al-qudra, al-irada, al-ilm, al-haya, al-haya, al-samu, al-basar, and al-kalam. And so those 7 attributes, then they are the quantitative attributes. So they affirm perfections for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the last 7, which is qadirun, muridun, alimun, hayyun, sami'un, basirun, and mutakallimun, are the sifat al-ma'nawiyah. Those are the qualitative attributes, which are the attributes of being, or Allah is actively doing these attributes. So meaning that if Allah is attributed with qudra, power, then he has to be all powerful, right? And so under these 20 attributes that we just mentioned, they are what's for ilahiyat. This is called ilahiyat. These are the attributes of godhood. So these is what everything's related to Allah. And then their opposites that we just covered. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he the opposite of al-wujud is Adam, and so forth and so on. And so once you got these down, well, you had a question, Akhi?
Yes. Are we understanding these ilahiyats as being synonymous with Allah's rububiyyah? Is this within the same category?
Yeah, yes, Rububi is the same. Yes, so everything, so sometimes people use these two terms, Rububi and Uluhiyya, right? These are the same. So everything is connected to Allah's lordship and his godhood. This is what's just necessary to know. These 20 attributes that make Allah who he is, and then those opposites that do not apply to him. All right, and then the next category that we're going to cover is everything's related to the prophets. And what is that term called?
On Nubuwat.
Yeah, Nubuwat. All right. Ilahiyat is things related to godhood, and Nubuwat is things related to prophethood. All right, so now let's go to that part, inshallah. All right, sorry about that sound in the background. All right, so for the prophets, there are 4 necessary attributes and 4 opposites. All right, so the first one that is necessary, when we say necessary, this is what's necessary for prophets to be prophets, right? They have to have these attributes. So the first one on the left are the necessary ones, and the ones on the right is the opposite ones. So on the left, they have fatana al-aql, which is, fatana means like discernibility or to be able to figure things out. And then they have aql, intelligence. That's the first necessary attribute. The second one is that every prophet, for them to be prophets, they have to have sidq, or truthfulness. All right. The third one is tabligh, conveying the message. And the fourth one is amana, or trustworthiness. And then the opposites of them are the same when we talk about Allah. We say the necessary attributes, the absence of them are inconceivable, and the opposite of them are impossible. And so this is the same thing when we talk about the prophets. The absence of these necessary attributes for them, it is inconceivable that we would believe in them as prophets if they didn't have these things. If they didn't have intelligence, if they weren't truthful, if they didn't convey the message, and if they didn't have amana, right? And so the opposites are impossible for them to be prophets, that they can't be attributed with balada. Balada means to be, I put unintelligent here, but it means like to be dim-witted, or, you know, someone who's like just can't fit, just like dumb. So it is impossible for prophets to be dumb or dim-witted or unintelligible. All right, it is impossible for prophets to be attributed with kadhib, lying. All right, it's possible for them to have kadhib, lying. And so we know a couple of reports in Sunnahs about the prophets where they said things that might have been considered a little white lie, but that's not like lying, like telling an untruth. All right, we discussed that I think last week or a couple weeks ago. Then the next one, which is the opposite of tabligh, is kitman, concealing something or hiding knowledge that they're supposed to convey. So the prophets don't have anything where, you know, let's say in our terms where like they have like a secret society or something like that, or like an elite group of people that they teach. All right. And then amana, trustworthiness. The opposite of that is khiyana. Khiyana is betrayal. So they don't betray the trust that they've been given. You know, they're not people who can't be believed in. And so for prophets to be prophets, they have to have all of these, and the opposites are impossible for them. They use fatana in the book, but most of the time you'll see aql. So either one of those you see it. So they have to have fatana, sidq, tabligh, and amana. And in some places they say that they have to have isma. Isma means like to be trust. It means trustworthy, to be, but safety, security. All right. So they are people that you can rely on.
That's ISM, right?
No,
ISMA.
they was sort of ein, but it's isma. Yeah, it's apostrophe ISMA. So it's an ein and a sword in Arabic. Isma.
Okay.
All right. All right. And so now with these 4 necessary attributes and these 4 opposites, that is 48 attributes. All right. And we said 50, right? All right. Can I go on? Because this will be the last part of this class today.
Yes,
Any questions?
no questions. I don't have.
Okay. Let me just go to the next one. So now the 2 possibilities. All right. So for Allah, this possible, which is jaiz, which means this is possible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so it is fi'l kullu mumkin aw tarkuhu. And that Allah, it is possible for him to do something that is possible or leave it. To do something or is possible or leave it. For instance, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has this characteristic to bring something to existence or not bring it into existence, to allow something to happen to or not to allow something to happen, or however things go from when it says from what is mumkin, what is possible, is that we don't even entertain things that are impossible with respect to Allah's majesty. And so that's the answer to when you hear this question from philosophers, can Allah create a rock that he can't lift or some, what's that question they say or something like that? Is it, can Allah create a rock that, go ahead.
Yeah, can Allah create a rock that he himself can't lift?
Yeah, doesn't even apply to Allah because, if a rock is a creation that someone else can't lift, how would it apply to Allah, who has no need because of his majesty? He doesn't engage in physical acts. So it's not possible. It's not possible in the sense that it doesn't even relate to his majesty. So we don't even entertain like dumb stuff like that. For philosophers, that might seem like it's something profound, but we're talking about Azza wa Jal, the mighty and majestic. This is belittling his majesty by even posing a question like that. Allah is his majesty is such that he doesn't lift, he doesn't lift things. He doesn't, people are thinking in physical thoughts, but this doesn't apply to Allah. So this is what this means here, what's possible. All right. And for the prophets, the possibility for them is to have what's called al-a'radul bashariyah. Al-a'radul bashariyah, which means human characteristics. So we discussed this briefly last week, is that they have human characteristics like they eat and they sleep and they use the bathroom and they, all of the characteristics that humans have, but they don't have those flaws, like physical flaws or defects that will take away from them conveying the message. So the prophets, they can't be people who are like handicapped or, have some type of physical defect that will impair the message that they're giving. All right. Well, all of the other characteristics that humans have. Okay, yeah, we're about to wrap up anyway. This is kind of the end of it, but alhamdulillah, thank you for joining us today, sis. We appreciate you. And inshallah, next week we'll be doing a review of the test that we're going to do the week after. So if you're able to join us then, mashallah, and maybe if you want to join the WhatsApp group, the sisters can add you in. All right. So, Sister Zakaria, these were the 2 that you were mentioning when we said 50. It's kind of just easier to say these in English, but this is the Arabic term, and I'll give it to you offline. It's fi'l kullu mumkin aw tarkuhu. That Allah, what is jaiz for him is that he can do something within the realm of possibility with respect to his majesty, or he can leave it. It's according to his irada. It's according to his irada, right? He has divine will to do whatever does. So this is possible for Allah. All right. And for the possibility of the prophets, for them to have human characteristics, al-a'radul bashariyah. So they have all the characteristics that we have. So, we believe that the prophets, they are ma'soom, they are infallible, but they're not, a prophet is no less of a prophet because he cries, or You know, he uses the bathroom, you know, or stuff like that. You know, but as far as they have those human characteristics, but not the ones that would make them detestable to people when they're given the message. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and that's it for that. So we just went over those attributes. So what I'm looking for is to be able to be comfortable in reciting these attributes. And I know we will probably need more time to do the opposites, but you can just go ahead and review, inshallah. I'll have a list of them in Arabic for my Arabic people, and just review them, you know, and then any question, you know, you're all in the WhatsApp group. But really to have a working knowledge, the necessary attributes, I want you to be able to run them all. You know, I want you to be able to, without looking at your paper, you know, or hide behind the screen and looking at your paper. You know, I want you to be able to say al-wujud, al-kiram, al-baqa, al-mukhalafa lil-hawadith, al-qiyam bin-nafs, I'm forgetting al-qiyam bin-nafs, al-wahdaniyah, al-qudra, al-irada, al-hay, al-samu, al-basr, al-kalam. All right. I think I missed one.
You ain't doing them in order. You ain't doing them in order.
Well, I did them though, nevertheless. Yeah. So, and then, you know, to know the other ones, Qadirun, Muridun, Alimun, Hayyun, Sami'un, Basirun, and Mutakallimun. To be able to run those off, you know, with relative ease, inshallah, and of course know what they mean, and then work on the opposite. So that'll be something ongoing. And so next week, we'll review everything that I'm looking for in the test, and then the week after that, which will be on that will be March the 10th, and we'll do the test online, and then if we have time, we'll discuss the test if we finish in time. I said about 30 questions. It'd be multiple choice, fill in the blanks, and some other things.
So so we're gonna go over everything. So can you make, since we just started, like we only been like maybe like a week or maybe possibly 2 weeks in the impossible attribute, and are you going to make those multiple choice, or should we just like, because
I'm not at liberty to give up the information.
Okay, so the prophet's not going to be on the test, right? Because we just literally talked about that last week, or the other two.
The prophets?
Yeah, the prophets, peace and blessings be upon them all.
No, I mean, there's only 4 of them, you know. I mean, that really shouldn't be that hard to, you know, go over, you know.
Okay.
So like if you understand Fatana and Aql, if you understand Sidq, Tabligh, and Amana, and then the opposites might show up that you'll be able to identify. But there's only 4, so I figured that you all are intelligent enough to remember those 4. Now I'm not asking you to memorize them, but just knowing when you see them and what they mean.
Okay, and what about the last 2 we just got today?
Just to know that, you know, I won't really press you about the Arabic term, but just to know that it's possible for Allah to do something or to not do something. All right. And it's also, and then for the prophets, for them to have human characteristics. So that is embedded in what we already taught about the prophets, that, you know, when we talk about physical flaws and defects, but it's just possible for them, you know, because they're prophets, they're, they're rank above the angels, right? But they also have human characteristics.
Okay,
So
I'm nervous
it's
already.
important to know that, because, you know, it puts them in the proper perspective, that like they are ma'soom, but they also, like, you know, because things that they do as human would seem as like a defect or weakness, like crying or stuff like that, but they have the possibility to do those things because of the reports we read about them in the Quran and in the Hadith. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. Any
Just
questions
study it
there?
all, basically.
Yeah, just kind of review it. I promise you the test won't be nothing, you know, you don't have to overthink this. You don't have to overthink it. You know, if you just review this information, and as Sister Venus said, we got this. You know, all you gotta do is review this information, and we're going to review it next week, and then the test will, you know, like I said, it'll be multiple choice, fill in the blanks, maybe one essay question, and maybe the attributes will show up with like a mix and match. You know,
Essay question. Oh my goodness.
it won't be a lot. I mean, I said it's only like 30 questions, but it won't be a lot. Trust me, it won't be a lot or nothing we didn't go over, but it also won't be a walk in the park.
Okay.
Yeah, so just don't overthink it. I mean, I know for all of you, this will probably be the first time you've taken the test with me, but just don't overthink it. And I know the sisters is just, you know, they just want to ace everything, but you know.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Don't
Yeah,
be a
but
hater
there,
now.
you know,
Don't be a hater.
this ain't no type of test that's gonna mess up your GPA. All right, we just learning, and you know, inshallah. But yeah, just review it, especially the attributes. If you just review them, it'll be a cinch, inshallah.
We got a study group for this class, me and Sister Nunu. So if anybody wants to be a part of it, I'm on Facebook. I got the same name. So let me know and I can add you. It's a WhatsApp study group. We study every Wednesday for this class because we got to get this together.
Okay, now, inshallah. May Allah bless you for making that available for you all studying together, inshallah. All right, so if there are no questions, you know, or any comments or anything, we're in there. Alhamdulillah, wa shukrullah. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity to have this gathering of knowledge. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from us, forgive us for any mistakes, and to put this on our scale of good deeds and to raise our rank by way of learning and implementing this knowledge. Ameen. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka anta sami'ul alim. Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillah. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum
Wa alaikum
assalam wa
assalam wa
rahmatullahi wa
rahmatullahi wa
barakatuh.
barakatuh.